Hey, welcome to Academy of Tone 319. I want to show you my Marshall collection. I was inspired by Joe Bonamassa when he just recently posted and shared his Marshall collection on the Reverb channel. I thought, Joe is a Les Paul player. I got my Les Paul with me as well. Here it is. But I have a few insights that I want to show you besides what Joe was mentioning. Even though he did a great story on the history of the Marshalls. So let me play you a little bit of his video and then I give you my comments and my extras to kind of complete the picture. But before we start, tomorrow I have a gig in St. Wendel, which is the town that Houston Kettner was originally from. Now it's a Thomann. It was bought by Thomann and therefore it's belonging to Treppendorf. But in the past, in my past, Houston Kettner was located in St. Wendel. And this is where I will play tomorrow, open air. 8:30, I guess. It's near the, what is it? The Ballhaus, Ball place. You know it. You just come to St. Wendel, you'll hear the noise. And I will, actually, I will play the AMP1 tomorrow. The biggest project on the planet, working on it every day, and we are doing a lot of things, making progress, and there will be an update episode on that on this channel very soon too. Let's see how it goes. A couple of weeks we are away from that, because we want to show some stuff that is a little bit more complete. Now we are just in the middle of UI programming, and if we would show you something that we will change later on, it's probably not clever, because the internet never forgets anything. So bear with us, but progress is being made. Okie doke. Talking vintage Marshalls. Everybody knows I love vintage Marshalls because this is kind of the rest of my collection. I had a bunch more, but why collecting amps that are not super special to me? So I just kept like my best ones. And historically, it starts with a JCM45, which is an amp from 1965. Then there is my JMP original Plexi from 1967. Then there is my metal panel Plexi with a special tube 5881s. It's more a 6L6 style tube, but I love it. This one is from 1969. Maybe we can show you the control, the check labels. I have two amps from 1969. One is this 50 watt. And the other one is that one here, which is 100 watt. That's again from 1969. And that is modified by myself. And I will probably mod that amp to be the authentic Van Halen amp. In the project of AMP1, I need a proper Van Halen, the original brown sound, and that requires a 69 100 watt amp. And I will check if my components are the right ones. But before I take that mod out of that amp, which can kind of never be replaced, I will probably make a model of that amp as it is now for the AMP1 then mod the amp, and then make the Van Halen sound. Yeah, and the Thomas amp is my Black Flag 1967, I guess, Plexi 100 watt. Maybe you can see that these tools have more inputs. These are PA models. I like those because they are easier to mod. You have extra tube in there, and that gives you more options for modifications. You have kind of the mechanics already done. But anything 50 watts is like really mint condition as it should be. Yeah, that is my collection here. And by the way, this little tower here is heavily modified. Another 100 watt, but that's like a high gain studio monster with like tight switches and extra gain stage. It is nothing that I would ever play with a Stratocaster, but humbuckers and that amp, that's a nice combination. And this is a 1990s reissue 100 watt. That is also a nice one, also slightly modded. Okay, Marshalls are great amps for modifications, but let me show you where the whole thing comes from and where the history of Marshall started. I probably give Joe Bonamassa a word, so we get his view and then I add mine. Okay.
How you guys doing? Joe Bonamassa here at Nerdville. Today, as you can see behind me, we're talking about vintage Marshalls. We start at the very beginning. Ken Brand, Jim Marshall, and this thing that was happening in England. These English musicians who were getting fixated on the blues, wanting something that sounded like a Fender amp. And Jim Marshall and Ken Brand kind of started copying Leo's designs, but only using, English parts. And what you see here today is one of the very earliest JTM 45s. It's very similar in circuit, this amp, to a 5F6 Fender Tweed Bassman, only with English parts. We're using this cabinet just out of convenience, ladies and gentlemen. My back is weary. It's a 1970 Basketweave Marshall cabinet with greenback speakers. So this is a good sounding cabinet. It's be a good way to demonstrate the heads we have today and hopefully show you the difference. Here's what we have today, 1965 Marshall J.
Okay, so this is like mine, JTM 45. When you listen to a Marshall without any other instrument, you might notice that there's always a little sizzle going on. And the JTM 45 has a little swampy low end, and it has it's a bit muddy, but well, it's part of the DNA of the 45, especially when it comes from the rectifier. And I have the Marshall history written by Michael Doyle and Nick Bocart. Yeah, and this book, by the way, shows the differences of a JTM 45 and a Fender Bassman. And as we can see, there is not much of a difference. Of course, cathode follower, 3-knob tone stack on both amps, exactly the same. then it is the same preamp circuit. It's using British tubes on the Marshall ECC83. Mallards are the good old ones. Then there is the power amp impedance is different, and the voltages are different. But when it comes to the power amp tubes, it's either the 5881s or the KT66. In mine, I have General Electric clear bottle KT66. I found those the best tubes for that amp. And, you know, it's a steel chassis with a fender and nobody can tell the difference. And aluminum chassis with the Marshall, it's a little bit lighter. The speakers, of course, are different depending on what you're using. By the way, the cabinet that Joe Bonamassa is showing you in that video is a 1970, by the way, bass cabinet. The same like my beloved Stack 1970. It is my favorite cabinet as well. And this is exactly this table here is the other half of my full stack. So here we go. Pretty much in sync. Let's have a listen here on that amp. So see, we are plugged into this amp. What we will get out of this amp, different things. It's now cranked for overdrive. So this is high treble input and volume like it was on 10, on maximum. And I gave it all the mids I have, and I gave it not all the treble because it's a Stratocaster. With Les Paul, it's a different thing, and presence kind of in the middle and not too much bass, actually non-bass, because that amps tends to be a little muddy. Depending on the amount of gain, I'm dialing in the tone control. So if I have something more cleanish in mind, so I would say up to like 5, it is more or less clean. Starts to break up. So there we go. And of course, I can crank it and we have the overdrive. And it reacts to the volume pot, which is fantastic. That is where the Marshall DNA started. Coming from the Fender and then getting into what we now know as the Marshall tone by using slightly different components and speakers. So let me show you what happened if I would change the rectifier tube, okay? Don't do this at home. Let me check. Okay, stand by. I will unplug this little fellow. So still glowing Valvo, and I will replace this hot tube with a very worn out rectifier tube to show you what a rectifier tube or how a rectifier tube affects the amp. Ah, by the way, here you can see, well, the logo is General Electric's KT66. Maybe the camera can see it. I don't know, but this is like KT66. And you can see it's really big glass bottles compared to the EL34s or the 5881s. So let's go back to sound. Come on. Why isn't this turning? It was so nice before, and now I don't want to. Fucking hell, what's going on? Hey? Okay. It's a Fender stair. This sucks. Okay? This is a Fender stool, but it used to be easy to turn and now it's blocked. Something is blocked with Fender these days. Okay. Anyway, let's go back and have a listen. A lot more gain and a lot less volume. I don't know if you, well, there's been a short break in between when I was changing the tube, but I can tell you that the volume is not the same. And so let me crank the volume a little bit here from the... Interesting, right? Okay, a little hummy, but I think you can change this amp just by changing that one tube. Yeah, and that's it's just hot. Besides being hot, it's not a risk. Okay, let's show you. This is the rectifier tube, and of course I was kind of collecting two very different rectifier tubes. This one with a lot of power, which is kind of stronger, makes the amp less compressed, less overdriven, gives it more headroom. Or this kind of, which is a very worn out rectifier tube that I actually like. I like both. for different things. So don't get fooled by volume. If you know, if you don't have the same output power, volume always sounds better. If something is louder, then it's one louder. You know, it's Spinal Tap, and that is impressive. But once you adjust the volume to the same level, you can judge it. And this effect is similar to what Eddie was doing with the Variac to lower the voltage. And that's something that has a huge effect on Marshall amps, or amps in general, but especially on the Marshalls. That's where people kind of can get more gain from. And that's weird. Less voltage or more zagging kind of squashes the sound more, which gives you more sustain and gain. Here we go. Hey guys, this is bass on 0. It doesn't go any lower than that. And as we can see, it's all the middle and all the treble that I have on this, and I'm in the high treble input, and it's still like farting away. This is a sound that I can try to recreate on the Amp1, but that's kind of very far away from the DNA of the Amp1. Let me still try to get somewhere close to it. Let me plug in. Here we go. Let me plug in the one control. Maybe I do it first without anything. So this is what you can do when you have an Amp1. And I'm sure I'm too loud now. And I have effects which is too loud. Well, can you tell the difference? I think I'm pretty close. And what did I do? Nothing. That's amazing. I mean, you can tell how much influence these amps had on my sound design. I haven't done this AB for a long time, but it's like shocking. It's like a... pretty close. For you guys out there, the settings are a joke. I'm on the vintage channel, gain on 8.5, and the tone control is in the middle. And the master volume is on 5. Not even the one control was needed. So, okay, that was the easy part. Any questions about the 45? This amp, actually, this amp belonged to Kalle Krawinkel. Only the Germans, well, actually everybody knows Kalle Krawinkel. If you know Da 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 by Trio, that was his amp. Da Da Da. Da Da Da. Du du liebst mich nicht, du liebst mich doch oder so ähnlich. You know, da 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 by, that's the amp. And by the way, he had also a 61 Stratocaster like this one, but with a logo here. I didn't have the money to buy that guitar too because the guitar was more expensive than the amp. Yeah, I see some comments in the chat here. When mismatching the voltage switch, yes, the internal voltage drops, and therefore you can kind of get a similar effect like a Variac, and that again gives you less headroom. Less headroom gives you more breakup, gives you more overdrive, gives you more gain, less volume, and you're getting closer to the Brown sound. And on the next amp, that is actually what I have done. So I switched this gentleman off, and I will move to the next amp. There's a question. How good is Iridium as a pedal platform? Can EQ get flat enough to be out of the way? Yeah, well, out of the way is never the case out with anything. But if you watch my Marshall pedal episode, I have done a episode on the new line of Marshall pedals, and I had the Mercury and the Iridium, and honestly I thought the Marshall pedals liked the Iridium even a bit better. So the Iridium is a great pedal platform as the AMP1 Mercury, but the Iridium overdrive channels, I would say, love humbuckers. That's at least my taste. I showed you my DNA, and I showed you how rich the tones are coming from these vintage amps, and they are not really tamed. They are very raw, and that's the beauty of these amps. And when we are talking about Iridium, that's the amp that I've done after I have done the raw machine, which is the Mercury Edition, the authentic, you know, old school vintage sound qualities. I wanted to have an amp that is different, that is tighter, that is... So overdrive on this, I would use with humbuckers. But the clean channel is a fantastic platform for pedals, absolutely. Okie doke. Which is closer to the original or Mercury? The original, you mean the silver edition, the amp that was not called Mercury Edition here. This is maybe even closer to this one than the Mercury, but I was very impressed how close I could get with the Mercury as it is. The silver edition, the first one, this was also my reference. All these three amps were my reference all the time. But the silver is definitely out there as well. You can't get them anymore because they're not manufactured unless you buy a used one. Which one is better? That's your decision. I cannot tell you. Some people told me, yeah, the Mercury is way better, but it all depends on your taste. It has nothing to do with what I call in German Grundsoundqualität. It's the basic foundation of the tone. It's the same technology, it's the same quality. I mean, we are comparing a super expensive vintage amp to an AMP1, and the difference is like very, very little. Okay, Wie viel Amps hast du? Ich meine Amp1 Variationen. Das sind reine Modeler oder könnte man die mit anderen Modelern verbinden? Was war dein Grundgedanke? Okay, I have to translate this. Alexander Stolle 809. How many amps do I have made Amp1 amps? So, okay, how many variations? There are actually 3. And these are sheer modelers. No, they are not modelers. They are all analog. That's why they sound so good. I'm just inspired by those tones. And that's what people these days call modeling. It's like if something is similar to something else, it's like modeled after this. And it's like I'm inspired by that DNA, but 100% model of this amp you will find in Amp X. But you can see how close I can get with Amp1 because the technology is doing the same things like the technology is doing on these. These are just whatever 500 volts anode voltage versus a lot less on our modern designed power amp, but the effects are exactly the same. The cooking recipe is the same. The processing is very similar, and therefore they sound and feel very close. So the answer to the question is I started with the first Amp1, now called the Silver Edition, but this was called Amp1. And then I came out with the Mercury Edition, that looks exactly the same, has just the Mercury written at the back panel under the fan, and it says Mercury Edition. It is slightly revoiced. It has a better reverb. Here, listen to the reverb. So the reverb is very musical compared to the first one, which was my first attempt, and anyway, was improved big time with the Mercury. And the third one that came out was the Iridium, and that's a more modern amp, and it sounds best with humbuckers. That's my short version. So, and my basic thought is very simple. The Mercury Edition is doing all the stuff that the Silver Edition was doing, maybe a bit more flexible, because when you do the same thing again, you have had more feedback. And introducing a new format like Amp1, I had a lot of feedback that I got from it. And of course, I started with my personal taste in the first edition of the Amp1, the Silver Edition. And then I got some feedback, well, I want a bit more tightness here. And so I improved the Amp1 to Mercury Edition. But still, the first one has its own qualities. And then to the even more modern sounding Iridium Edition. Okay. Question here. Would you mod a late 80s JCM900 this way? 900. Oh, JCM900 is what it is, but these amps are not so easy, not so much fun to modify. And I would leave the amp as it is. If you want Marshalls to modify, either get a vintage amp, a reissue like those from the 90s, or a real old one. The real old ones, they sound woodier for whatever it is. Transformers, don't ask me, but it's a fact. And these are way easier to modify. Or an 800 is also kind of a nice amp to modify. But 900, leave it as it is. That's my personal opinion. There's another question. Hi, Thomas. Are you creating new cab to use with AMP1? I have a bunch of cabinets. So, okay, this is my... We do have the NanoCab, the smallest 112 cabinet, and I just got it off here because I needed the room for the Marshalls. It was sitting here in the last episode. It's out there in the other room. So that's the NanoCab. The NanoCab comes in two versions, which is the NanoCab as we know it from the very beginning, and the NanoCab Neo Pro, which is this that Lucas hands me over. Ta-da! And this is a 100-watt 12-inch cabinet that is light, 7 kilograms, I guess. You can find it on our website. And it has a neodymium speaker that handles 100 watts. So for this kind of format, for this small and portable format, and you can see I can lift it, it's a very, very powerful cabinet. Then we have the Fat Cab, which is my personal preferred cabinet ever since. I have, Lucas, it's in the car, forget it. Lucas is looking around for cabinets. But it's in my car because tomorrow is my gig. So you will see me like 99.9% with a Fat Cab. I play my other cabinets only to try because I'm so much in love with my Fat Cab. And this cabinet is been with me ever since, even before BluGuitar existed, because that was my personal cabinet that I even played when using Kettner. I was still with using Kettner. I didn't like their cabinets so much. They're smaller cabinets. Secret tip, if you find a custom cabinet that came with a tri-amp from the 90s by using Kettner, buy it, because the best Celestion speakers ever, UK made, spot on deal. The vintage 30s sound killer and the greenback sound killer too. But me having a convertible car, a 4x12 cabinet was not the solution. And the smaller cabinets I didn't like so much, so I built my own. And that now is the Fat Cab by BluGuitar, which is my 1x12, sounds like a 4x12 in a compact format cabinet. Then we have the Twin Cab, and the Twin Cab is a 2x12 cabinet that can be used horizontally or vertically. And yeah, that's great. And I have a new cabinet in the making. It's an open back cabinet for the American sounds, inspired by American brands and fumble, rumble, and other experiences I made that will be seen somewhere in the future. And now the question about AMP1. All these cabinets can be combined with AMP1 and be combined with the AMP1s, because a good cabinet is a good cabinet. A cabinet brings a quality and a character, and you have to choose what is your quality. I know some people buy full range flat response cabinets because they can do anything, but they are the master of everything and what is it? And the master of none. You know, any decent, I'm not even talking BluGuitar cabinets, any decent guitar cabinet will blow off a full range flat response cabinet unless it's 4 times bigger than a real guitar cabinet. Trust me, it's a guitar speaker has a lot of qualities, and a PA speaker is a PA speaker. I'm not saying it's not it is a way of dealing with a lot of different sounds, but it's not my philosophy. And the market has nothing that convinced me so far. I just checked out a lot of these cabinets, and if I had to play one of those, I play anything. Give me Boss Cantana and I'm twice as happy as playing such. Okay, sorry. Back to the story. Somebody is asking, can we get T-shirts to Sweetwater or retail for US buyers? Unfortunately, at this point, we don't have the T-shirts in the US. If you write us an email to service@bluguitar.com, service@bluguitar.com. We have a few that we had at a trade show, and let us know your size, because from them we had a few. If we have your size, we can sort you out if you're in the US, but this has to go through us. We don't have the dealers with T-shirts, so they're sitting in our US warehouse, and we can maybe sort you out on a personal level. Drop us an email and we'll see how it goes, if we have your size. Oh, there's more questions on the new cabinet. Yes, it's called the Americana Cab, the cabinet I talked about a few episodes ago. You will see pictures and stuff very soon. I'm serious about that cabinet because I ordered the first production run. And by the way, yeah, we placed a big order for a new cabinet delivery, as we are running out of cabinets. So it's always the thing with BluGuitar. We make products and then we are sold out, or we are never ready with like AMP-X, because we are all about quality and not making money. We are losers when it comes to making money. Eventually, we make the money that we don't go bankrupt. That's, yeah. Fuck, that's how we are. But please, let me go back to the Marshall story. To catch up with everything needed, let's listen to a few more words of Joe Bonamassa, and then I carry on.
JTM45. I own 6 JTM45s ranging in age from 1965 through about 1966. The DNA of the Marshall sound kind of starts with this thing right here. And there's the offset chassis, the JTM45s. That were, 1962, 1963, the aluminum chassis ones. But as far as, my ear, and that real, like, John Mayall and the Blues Breakers sound, that real, Peter Green, all that English stuff that I loved and grew up listening to, the Jeff Beck group, this kind of starts it for me. Interesting history about this particular amplifier.
Here. So I have less presence, less sizzle. you can hear that it is in that kind of territory. So, well, his history about this amp is not so important because that's his amp. What else do we have here next? I think that's the same sound clip all over the video. Okay.
That Eric Clapton insisted that the engineer distant mic it to get more of a room sound. Absolutely, it's true because you can hear it. But you also hear that kind of immediacy and that squish, and you know that's inherent with the JTM45.
So what I have done is I changed the mic position on the blue box to a little less center, so to make it sound more like the video of Joe Bonamassa. Yeah, but you can hear Amp1 is pretty close. But also mind that there is some dirt in the overdrive.
We're looking at a 1960s.
Okay, he's going to the next one. This is kind of the muddiest and dirtiest Marshall, in my opinion. And if you don't like that, you shouldn't get a JDM45. Then you are more a rock guy. This kind of amp is bluesy and vintage rock. And you have to dig in hard to get the notes out. Oh, sorry. Let's play the Marshall and not the Amp1. Compress yourself. And I think mine even sounds a little bit nicer than Joe's. Listen to his one is like a little.
My opinion that the
So I think mine is a bit more controlled, and let me know if you think the same or if it's whatever. I had a 45 before this, and that's the better one. So I'm not collecting amps, I just collect the best amps. So in my life, I had 3 45s, and that is my king of the 45s. And therefore, this is staying with us here. Okay, Then he's moving on to the next one, which is this 50 watt. Let's listen.
It's a sound of a lot of rock and you know, British rock that you know,
Oh, by the way, here you can see the price, 11,000. Mine is not for sale, priceless.
love it, you know, and JTM 45s are a part of that.
Blah blah blah.
To make it sound like a Princeton reverb. Where, you know, and the build quality is great, and what a great invention. I mean, it's just classic.
Okay, I think that's enough noise out of that amp. Ah, and by the way, I have a nice picture with me and Joe when we met a couple of years back in LA at a pizzeria, the LA Gun Club, where guitar players meet and hang out when they are in town. And he was showing me his whatever latest was it a 1960s Les Paul that he just got? Yeah. Okie doke. And as Joe told us, that is the sound of the Beano album Bluesbreaker combo. Here we can see Clapton. And what he also mentioned is that it was not close mic'd. There was a room mic to pick up the sound, which is which is part of the character of that Beano album. And it was loud, but of all the amps I have in here, this is the least loudest, the quietest of my Marshalls. Okay, let's move on for the 50 watt series, which is model number 1985. It's a model number. It has nothing to do with the year or something. And these amps are typically using the EL34s, which is what Marshall is known for. And these tubes, well, first of all, these amps and these tubes have a bit more power, and they also come usually with a silicon diode rectifier, not a tube rectifier anymore. And here we go. This is my JMP from 19... is it 2? I think it's number 2. Yeah. A lot more headroom, a lot more power, a lot more noise. I probably bring the volume of our studio monitors a bit lower. So this is what people call a small box Plexi. Why small box? Because 50 watt compared to 100 watt, it's a smaller box, okay? Okay, this is a 1967 real Plexi front panel and using EL34 tubes. Not as squashy, but I would say more rock. With the Les Paul, you know, you don't hear the difference that much, but I show you with the Strat in a minute, and you can hear that the Strat will have a lot more bite than on the 45. Okay, let's grab a Strat. Maybe you can hear that extra note. That note is always underneath the sound because that is coming from the power supply. It is a part of the cycles that we get from the power grid, and but if you have L caps that kind of filter it too well, the amp gets stiff and is no fun to play, and it's getting sterile. This amp used to be a tremolo, so it has an extra tube. That's why I bought the amp, because extra tube means it can be easily modified without having to drill any holes of that and destroying such a beautiful amp. But this is mint condition, old tubes, old components, and original design. I had it modified once, but I decided to go back. And this one now also has the voltage selector on 240, which drops the voltage a little bit because we have 230. So it's set to 240, and since it is so the voltage is lower for the power amp tubes, and that gives me a little bit more eddy-ish zag. I can do the AB comparison with the Amp1, but aha, I hear something. Can you hear how that amp has a lot more mids? Yeah, well, it has more mids because the mids are on 10. Okay. I know this is not so easy to get there, but let me try. The thing is, these tone controls, they are before the power amp stage. And part or most of the sound that we hear is the phase splitter power amp stage saturation plus some preamp saturation. But there is not so much difference when it's overdriven, when I dial in the middle here, like. So that's when it starts to overdrive, it is yeah, you feed more mids into the saturation, but anything overdriven is more similar. So a lot more low end on this one. How to get there? I have an idea. I use my treble bleed capacitor on the gain, and that kills some of the bass, gives me more mids and highs, and I'm losing gain. That might be a problem. Let's check. See, now the boost comes in handy. So having the boost on and reducing the gain here brings me closer to this gentleman over here. Okay, AB, the 45 was closer, but this, again, if you don't know, you might forget about it differently. I could also try to get closer now with the one control and having a bit more power amp saturation. And this amp has no volume control. It's only louder, and that's more saturation when it's at the full. But the Amp1 has potentially more power. So therefore, I can use my, what we call here, power soak, to get into a mode where I reduce the output power of Amp1. Let me go back to vintage. And here you see this is it switches from home mode, which is 7 watts. 7 watts is now very low, but trust me, when you do this with a real speaker in the same room, 7 watts is a lot. No, 2 watts here. 2 watts to 7. This is 7 watts. And you can tell the Marshall has a lot more power. What I have done now is I switched off the boost and used power amp saturation. So I was dialing back the power on the one control power soak, so to speak, and get to the same clipping point of the power amp stage on the Amp1, like the same level of the point where the Marshall is clipping. And then I could push the power amp a bit harder and get the missing gain from the power amp saturation, kind of being closer to the same sonic recipe like that 50 watt Plexi here. And see, we are getting closer. Okay, these settings are now similar to this because mids are always all the way up. 9 and treble is kind of 6 in the middle and the bass is very low. And these are the same settings here. Bass is very low and treble kind of in the middle. And therefore, understand, I could recreate that sound with another way. But as we could hear before, also the boost is doing a job similar to that. So there are always more options. This is more authentic because I understand the architecture of this amp and what happens in every stage. So I, of course, understand that on a theory level and electronics level, and so I can try to get the same kind of things happening in AMP1. And that's the proof, again, why AMP1 is very similar to a tube amp. And by the way, we are out there with AMP1 for like 10 years, and nobody on this planet has a power amp that does what you just could hear. A power amp with power amp saturation, just like on a real tube amp. And for me, that's the foundation of a real good amp. And by the way, that's also the reason why the modelers don't do it for me. Because the interaction of the power amp with the speaker is not the same. And that's why a lot of professional players, they play modelers, but they have something on stage that gives them a tube amp feel. Maybe it's a tube amp with their campers or whatever, fractals. Okie doke. So, JMP50 model 1987, 50 watt, real plexi panel, great amp. Okay, pip, switch off. Why? Because they are good heaters. Tube amps consume a lot of power and transfer this into heat. And we have summertime here. So I try to keep the room nice and cold. Next amp, I think it's on 4. Yeah. That is my first ever plexi, even though it doesn't have a real plexi front panel. It's called the aluminum front panel. And that's a 1969 amp, which, yeah, is maybe still one of my favorite amps in the collection. They all have their specialties. That's why I kept them. It's like every amp in my collection has something to say, and therefore they are not being sold. If they have nothing to say anymore, they are being sold. And by the way, exactly this amp we already have recreated on the Amp X, and there is a little video clip that I wanted to show you from last year's Guitar Summit A/B comparison. Yeah, so that amp I have used on many of my records, and it has the 5881 tubes, which is a 6L6 style tube, and when you listen to that, it sounds really sweet. I go back for my typical mic position with a little bit more highs, and that's yeah, it's a fantastic amp. Use this forever. But hey, let's go back to Joe Bonamassa and see what his collection is doing, and then we can react.
This is a JMP in a small box with 50 watts, Plexi, otherwise known as the small box 50. The difference between the JTM 45s and these amps is they went to EL34's no tube rectifier. So they're definitely tighter, they're definitely more immediate response. And some people prefer these. Like, to me, the guy who best represented a Les Paul guitar and a small box 50 is Martin Barre from Jethro Tull. That was the high water mark of the small box 50. Beautiful Les Paul rock guitar sound, and probably played through something like this. Now, you know, now the difference between this and 69, where the metal panel is just same parts, same general construction. That's the quintessential, like, small box 50, vintage Marshall through a Les Paul kind of sound.
Now he's playing through 100 watt, but yeah, what he just said was about this amp, the JMP small box 50 watts, and me loving these amps so much. I have two of those, and as Joe also said, it's like the 69. Same components, very, very similar. I just love the difference in the tubes for my personal taste. The EL34s are a little bit more aggressive than the 5881s. And yeah, you can watch the whole video of Joe Bonamassa and his collection on Reverb on the channel, but he has also a link from his video channel. I make a quick comparison between this or these two, so you probably get a feel of what the power amps tubes are doing. So now I'm on the 58, and here we are. EL34. Aggressive, bitey, Marshall-esque, and this rounder, sweeter. That's me. yeah, it's kind of more mid-focused versus more open, more bitey. And that's the power amp tubes here. Main difference. And I always loved that. Fuck, I've cheated you because I was on Amp1. Let's go back. Which one is which? So that's Amp1. Okay, and 2 is this one, and 4. He was calling. Stop it. Did it? And 4 is. No, wait a minute. Okay. 2, 4. 4, 2. Huh? Okay, 4 is this one. Okay. And that's the Amp1. Yeah. I think they are all so close. I kind of don't know where I am. If you can tell the difference, I buy you a beer. So let's go to this gentleman here. So that's the lowest one with the 5881s. Versus the one with the EL34s. Yeah, there's a lot of bite. So, and the Amp1, of course, sounds more like me. Yeah. Okay. Joe is talking about 100-watt plexis now. I'm a big fan of the 50 watts. The reason for that is the 50 watts, they don't torture you too much. And I can still get all my clean tones from it. But I have to admit, the rumble of a 100-watt Marshall is more on a 100-watt. Let's hear.
This is the 100-watt 1969 Marshall Super Lead. This would be right in the era of Jimi Hendrix, Deep Purple, even Cream. Back in they were using 100-watt platforms, and this one is my original Marshall. This is the first Marshall I ever owned, and I bought it when I was 13 years old in Utica, New York, and I paid $375 for it. There's something about these earlier Super Lead 100s that they're really clean. They get really clean and they take pedals well. I always found that the earlier Super Lead 100s really sounded great with Strats, and did this really deep bellowing, clean sound. These are tight and they're medium and they're 100 watts. And they're heavy, big freaking transformers on these things. They're heavy. There's not much difference circuitry-wise between a Plexi panel and an early metal panel. Not until about 1970, 71, they start getting a little different. I learned a fact years ago that the polarity switch denoted an American, an import model. No polarity switch would have been for the UK. In this era, they would have come through, I think it was Westbury Music on Long Island. I think that was the distributor back in those days. Back in 1969, these were hard to get. There's no Marshall dealers. It was pretty much Gibson, Fender, Ampeg. Boom, The Who, boom, Hendrix, everybody wanted them, Cream. you know, Eric Clapton, everyone, Roy Orbison. I've been a proponent of the Marshall Silver Jubilee, the 2555, for years. I still use them in my live rig. I think it's the best master volume Marshall that money can buy. As these progressed throughout the 70s, they put a bright cap in them. It was hard listen, and there was some modifications, and you were getting people modifying them. You know, Jose and Lee Jackson, and you know, a lot of people out here are modifying Marshalls because what was coming out of the factory just wasn't, you know, what people wanted, but they still wanted that sound. And you know, you get the first delineations of the master volume Marshalls, which were pretty good. You know, the JCM900 became a you know, a hard rock heavy metal standard. You know, in the early '80s, people like Kerry King, Zakk Wylde, big proponents. Dave Amato, REO Speedwagon, the JCM900 the dual channel 800s into the Jubilees. Where things for me got off the rails was when we started to see the JCM900s, which and when Marshall stopped using the Drake transformers, the big heavy Drakes that came in these, and you know, up to the Jubilee era, and it's a very much a thing where, you know, you feel the headroom go away under the strings, and it's, you know, amplifiers are very, very sensitive. You know, it's like guitar players are very sensitive to what they feel under the strings. You cannot express to another person that doesn't play guitar like what the bloom is under the strings. So you're feeling that symbiotic relationship through this cable, that guitar, and that amplifier. And once you lose the headroom, you lose that symbiotic relationship, and it becomes difficult. And you know, some of the amps became fizzy and bright and too much gain, too many knobs. You know, 40 knobs between the front and the back. You're like, I don't know what to do. But that's not just intrinsically Marshall's issue. You know, there's, you know, Mesa Boogie went down that road as well with, you know, lots of knobs and lots of variables. And when you listen to British blues, British rock, you know, in the era that I liked, you know, between 65 and 70, 72, I was like, yeah, that's the, you know, that's the sound for me. And you know, and it's not rocket science to just plug in and, you know, dime it, and it kind of gets there. Whether it stays on is another story.
Okay, we heard that lick before. But anyway, so the point he makes is interesting, how you feel the amp under your strings. And that's something I totally connect to as well, because playing the instrument of electric guitar is a connection of what I have in mind, my vision, and my tone, and my expression. And if something is not in the right place, or if it doesn't feel right, it's like riding a bicycle with a flat tire. I mean, it's a lot of work, but if everything is like spot on, it feels great, and that makes you play better. And therefore, I love a good tone, and that defines a good tone for me. It's not only the frequencies, it's also how it feels. Okay, checking out the story about the 100-watt Plexis. This is a Black Flag GTM from 1967. EL34 4, of course, 100 watts. And this one is again a PA, which is the version that I like because they are easy to modify. You have more knobs. You have like 4 volume controls. So what I have here is I have an 800 modification on that side, which has a master volume. Wait a minute, I'm in the wrong amp. This is again Amp1. Switch that. Is it? Okay, I'm in the right amp now. Okay. that's my master volume, and that's my gain. The reason why I modded that amp is there are 800s out there that have more bites, that are more rock, that are more Les Paul. And this one sounds so warm and so rich and full. Let me go to this channel here, which is totally unmodded. Huh? Ah. I have to switch over here. There is just the clean side of that amp, and I would now set the tone stack a little different for that, but that is the combination of a Plexi and an 800 on the 1967 platform. Also a great blues amp, but if I go back to the vintage older amps, I prefer that for, you know, a lot better here. And for clean tones, Marshall for clean, why not? 100 watt Plexi. And then there's another one. As you could hear, this one is modded and gives you the 800 sound. And this last one is from 1969. And this is, this could be it. So that's, well, this I would play with the Les Paul in that setting, just to show you real quick. Okie doke. Great rock amp. I need to mod that 100% towards Eddie. That's on my wish list. But I modded that for myself in a way that it suits my Strat. I would change the settings a little bit. Getting rid of some of the bite, which is like too much for a Strat. Let me get rid. Yeah, it's a throatier kind of tone for me as a Strat player. $100 watt Plexi 1969. So guys, that was basically my collection, and there are two more. This 90s modded is also a nice one, but the cables are not long enough to set it up now. So I leave this for another episode in the future. All great amps, that's why they're here. And by the way, the Blackstar here belongs to Uli John Roth. The other day I wrote him an email and asked him, hey, shall I bring you the amp back? And he was busy, didn't reply, so it still sits here. In case you're watching, Uli, that's your amp, and let me know where I can drop it off. Yeah. Okay, let's check what's going on in the chat here. What's I don't get it. Wait a minute. Thomas, I'm always feeling BluGuitar. What's blue? Yeah, okay. Headloom. The only thing that is a bit bothering Amp1 is the bright logo light. Well, guys, be creative. You could have some paint, and I'm not doing this because I kind of like it is, but a paint is a filter that's possible, or you have some scotch tape, or be creative and change it the way you like it. I don't want to guys to open the unit and change resistors. There are ways, but no, don't do it. Put some art and be creative. Okay. Optimization using the logo light with slits and cover. Yeah, see. Deflex LEDs. Oh my God. Lichterkette. Okay, people are going crazy. It's probably late and you're having two beers too many. Taped over the eyes. Yes, that's another way, but better to tape the logo if you like to do that. When can we buy AmpX? I'm on your waiting list. Yeah, I can wait any longer. Well, you can wait longer unless you will die tomorrow. But I don't wish you do. It is there. I asked. I ordered production, so it's serious. It's coming this year. But as I said before, it's finished when it's finished. It's ready when it's ready, and we are making good progress. So it's coming. But I don't know where you're on the list. The list is so long. That's another problem for everybody, including myself. It's unbelievable. And if you are not on the list, put yourself on the list, because those people who still wait and are not on the list, they probably will die before you get yours, and that's not a good thing. But the good thing is we do have a very good manufacturing, and the process we have been through over the years with our manufacturer is actually a good thing, because we worked on establishing the build quality, and it's a training process. It goes two ways. It's not like we tell somebody and somebody is doing it and we don't care. No, they do care and we do care, and we go ping pong, ping pong, ping pong every day, hundreds of emails and little details, and then we sign it off and say, this is a good way to do it, and this is what it's not okay, and this needs to be improved, and blah, blah, blah. And by the way, I'm in the process of designing the stickers that come on the bottom of the AmpX, which is a sign of it's getting to the end. And it's not only the packaging. And by the way, if you go on Blugipedia, our knowledge base, you will find some parts of a future manual already there. Just go and search. And it is not finished, but bits and pieces are up there. You can have a sneak preview there on a few things. Okay, whatever is going on. Okay, somebody was already there. Hey guys, and again, for those who don't know that Amp1 can do Marshalls, I think this is another episode that was proven that Marshall sounds is not a problem with this product here. And we are talking real expensive stuff. There was one thing I was not showing you guys, which I forgot. I did show you in the past, and that's the last thing I will do. What happens when you bridge the inputs? Let's go back for the 45, which, there we go. Okay. So this is the 45. Maybe we don't put it on 10 now. You can clearly hear that this amp has a clean side, which I kind of like. And it has a transition into the overdrive world in a very subtle way. So yeah, it compresses a lot. But anyway, I wanted to show you something else, which is the input and the bridging. So high treble input, let me put both in the middle position so you can hear the difference. You know what? I took off the treble bleed on this amp. I cannot show you what I wanted to show you because the normal channel is usually a lot of, it's like that. The normal is as it should be. But the bright channel should be brighter here. And I have to double check. But there's another thing. You can bridge these inputs and something happens to the sound of the guitar. Listen. The high end is gone. And that's due to the fact that both inputs are bridged and each input individually has 1 mega ohm input impedance. And when you bridge those, they combine to 500 kilo ohms. And that is a load on your pickups. And therefore, your guitar sounds warmer when fully cranked. So, and it sounds brighter when you just use one of the two inputs. But when you have more gain and you turn the guitar down, you get a bit more high end. And that's why I sometimes bridge the two inputs, as we can see over here. And all these details you can find on AmpX, because there's like a switch that goes from high treble into bridge mode and gives you an extra control to blend in the rumbly normal channel. Okay, attention to detail. The high treble here, I was expecting more, but I have to actually to double check of the specs. Maybe it's all original because I never changed anything on that amp. Weird. Okay, Any questions at this point? Maybe not. Now is the time. And for the Saarland people, tomorrow I will play in St. Wendel. Yeah. We have beautiful weather. The beer is cold. The weather is warm. I see Hardy1 says AMP1 plus Mercury a second amp for stereo. Yeah, that's a very powerful combination if you want to do that. But again, we are all kids that go into the toy store and want all the stuff. AMP1, I can only repeat myself. It's doing what I have here in the room. I'm not afraid to take any challenge here. And if you guys have a sound that you cannot find on AMP1, there's a few options. One is you go and look our sound finder on BluGuipedia. You type in the sound by guitarist or by amp type, and you will get some settings, some examples how to do that. And if you don't get anywhere, you can still drop us an email and best describe what your settings are and what you are missing or what you want to have different. And then I or somebody from the team can guide you there. Because I believe most of the sounds that we have heard on this planet can be done with these two units. And it's only the question of settings. It's not that the units could not do it. I bet on that. Okay, so thanks for joining me on this one, and thanks to Bonamassa to showing us his Marshall collection. Was a good point for me to show you mine again. And yeah, somebody said Bonamassa bought his first amp at 13. This is the age when I started to pick up the guitar. I didn't buy a Marshall at the age of 13. No, my first Marshalls I bought like with 16 or 17 when I became a session musician. I was crazy. I started late, but was totally, all my school years, I was just practicing. I wish I had that much time. I mean, this is what I lost some of my qualities at school, but I gained the qualities at the guitar. And I still play what I ever have been playing when I was younger. So, you know, if you listen to my old shit, it's just like my new shit, because it's me. Okay, dog. Thanks for joining in. See you again next week. Have a good one and enjoy the summer. Cheers.